Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to win someone's attention, the further they seem to drift away? It happens in friendships, relationships, business, and even in everyday social interactions. Most people believe that being constantly available, always replying immediately, and doing everything possible to please others will make them more appreciated. But human psychology often works in the opposite direction. The more predictable and accessible you become, the easier it is for people to take your presence for granted. They stop seeing its uniqueness because it no longer feels special. Now, this doesn't mean you should become cold, arrogant, or emotionally distant. It means you must understand one of the most important principles of influence. People appreciate what they have to earn. Think about the greatest achievements in your own life. Were they the things that came easily, or were they the things that required effort, patience, and persistence? The answer is obvious. What costs us something emotionally, mentally, or physically becomes valuable in our minds. The same principle applies to the attention you give away. Too many people hand out their time as if it has no value. Over time, something dangerous happens. Instead of being respected for their generosity, they become expected. Their attention becomes ordinary. Their presence becomes predictable. And anything predictable eventually loses its excitement. The most attractive people are not those who desperately seek to be noticed. They are the ones who are deeply engaged in building a meaningful life. They have goals that demand their focus. They have standards that protect their peace. Their attention is not difficult to obtain because they are playing games. It is valuable because it is invested wisely. There is no mystery, no challenge, no sense of individuality. Now imagine someone who treats you with kindness and respect, but also has ambitions, passions, and responsibilities that don't revolve around you. That person immediately appears more confident, more balanced, and far more interesting. Confidence grows from having a purpose greater than the need to be accepted. When you stop chasing attention, something remarkable begins to happen. You create space, and in that space, curiosity is born. It is simply the natural consequence of respecting your own time. Your energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every minute you spend trying to convince someone to see your worth is a minute stolen from becoming the person you were meant to become. Instead of asking, "How can I make them notice me?" begin asking, "How can I become someone whose life is too meaningful to waste chasing validation?" That single shift changes everything. When your attention becomes intentional instead of unlimited, people stop taking it for granted. Once you understand that your attention has value, the next step is even more powerful. You must stop looking to other people to tell you what you're worth. This is where most lives quietly lose their direction. They begin measuring themselves by compliments, approval, likes, messages, invitations, and the opinions of people who may not even have their own lives figured out. The moment your confidence depends on someone else's response, you have handed them control over your emotions, and when someone controls your emotions, they control your decisions. They are hoping for a message, waiting for recognition, searching for proof that they matter. When the notification comes, they feel important. When it doesn't, doubt begins to creep in. That emotional roller coaster is exhausting because it places your peace in the hands of circumstances you cannot control. The strongest people live differently. They don't ignore others because they think they are better. They simply refuse to let outside opinions become the foundation of their identity. It grows when you continue learning after everyone else has become comfortable. It grows when you stay disciplined on the days motivation is nowhere to be found. Notice something about people who naturally attract respect. They rarely beg for attention. They rarely explain their value. They don't chase every opportunity to impress others because they are too busy becoming impressive. Their focus is internal before it is external. That is why their presence feels calm instead of desperate. They don't need to convince the world who they are, because their actions speak louder than their words. It doesn't compete for attention because it doesn't need permission to exist. Insecurity, on the other hand, is always searching for confirmation. It constantly asks, do they like me? Did I say the right thing? Am I enough? But the moment you answer those questions for yourself, you free your mind from a prison that has held you back for years. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will criticize you no matter how hard you try. Others will overlook your efforts completely. If your happiness depends on changing their minds, you will spend your life fighting battles that can never truly be won. Every investment you make in yourself is a statement that your worth is not waiting for someone else's approval. The irony is remarkable. The less you chase validation, the more people begin to notice your confidence. They are drawn to individuals who carry themselves with quiet certainty, because certainty is rare in a world full of people seeking constant reassurance. Your energy changes, your conversations change, your decisions become clearer because they are no longer driven by fear of rejection. You discover the strength of silence. Most people are terrified of silence because they mistake it for weakness. They believe they must constantly explain themselves, defend every decision, answer every criticism, and win every argument. But the truth is, the person who speaks the least often reveals the greatest level of self-control. Silence is not the absence of confidence. It is confidence that no longer needs to announce itself. Think about how quickly people react when they feel misunderstood. A friend ignores their message, and suddenly they are overthinking every possible reason. These reactions don't just drain your energy, they give other people access to your emotional state. Every unnecessary reaction tells the world exactly how to control you. Emotionally intelligent people understand a simple principle. Not everything deserves a response. Some battles are distractions disguised as opportunities. Some conversations exist only to pull you away from your purpose. The moment you learn to distinguish between what deserves your attention and what deserves your silence, your life becomes far more peaceful. Some battles they don't rush to fill every pause with words. They listen carefully, observe patiently, and speak only when their words carry weight. Their silence creates curiosity because people naturally wonder what they are thinking. Instead of chasing attention, they allow their composure to become their introduction. This doesn't mean you become emotionally unavailable or refuse to communicate with people who matter. Silence is not about avoiding responsibility. It is about choosing wisdom. Many people unknowingly weaken their influence by explaining too much. They justify every decision because they fear being judged. They apologize for having boundaries. They seek permission to live life according to their own values. But the more you explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you, the more power you surrender. Sometimes your actions are all the explanation anyone deserves. Silence also gives you something that constant talking never can: perspective. You notice who supports your growth and who becomes uncomfortable when you stop seeking their approval. These observations become impossible when your mind is consumed by emotional reactions. Remember, every pause is an opportunity to choose your response, instead of being controlled by your emotions. Every moment of restraint strengthens your discipline. Every unnecessary argument you walk away from protects your peace. In a noisy world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the person who masters silence becomes unforgettable. Once you learn the discipline of silence, your attention is no longer wasted on proving yourself to people who were never willing to understand you. That creates something incredibly valuable: time. And the question becomes, what will you do with it? Most people use that time to keep watching others, comparing themselves, and wondering why someone else seems happier, more successful, or more admired. But the people who transform their lives make a different choice. They turn their focus inward. They are not distracted by every opinion or every passing trend. Their mind is occupied with building something larger than temporary approval. They understand that every hour spent complaining is an hour stolen from becoming stronger. Every minute spent seeking validation is a minute that could have been invested in learning a new skill, improving their health, strengthening their character, or creating opportunities that didn't exist yesterday. Ask yourself this question: if you stopped worrying, that single shift changes your entire life, because your focus determines your future. Whatever you consistently give your attention to will eventually shape who you become. Too many people confuse busyness with progress. They spend hours scrolling through other people's lives while neglecting their own dreams. They celebrate the success of strangers more than they invest in their own potential. Then they wonder why they feel stuck. The answer is simple. Your life grows where your attention goes. If your attention is scattered across distractions, your results will begin to reflect that commitment. The irony is fascinating. The moment you become fully absorbed in improving yourself, people start paying attention, not because you ask them to, but because excellence attracts curiosity. Confidence attracts respect. Discipline attracts opportunity. You no longer need to convince anyone that you are valuable because your daily actions quietly make that argument for you. This is why rejection should never become your stopping point. Rejection is information, not your identity. Every successful person has been ignored, underestimated, criticized, or dismissed at some point. The difference is that they refuse to let those moments define them. Instead of becoming bitter, they became better. They used disappointment as fuel. They transformed pain into discipline, setbacks into lessons, and obstacles into stepping stones. Your greatest competition has never been another person. It has always been the version of yourself that settles for less than your potential. Every day you have an opportunity to become a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more disciplined than you were yesterday. That quiet, consistent improvement is what separates extraordinary lives from ordinary ones. When your purpose becomes stronger than your need for attention, you stop chasing the world, and the world begins to notice the person you are becoming. As you become more committed to your purpose, you will notice something unexpected. In fact, the stronger you become, the more situations will appear that challenge your patience, your confidence, and your emotional stability. There will always be someone who doubts you, criticizes you, ignores your efforts, or tries to provoke a reaction. At that moment, your greatest strength will not be your intelligence or your talent. It will be your ability to remain in control of yourself. Most people believe power comes from controlling other people. They spend years trying to change minds, win arguments, or force others to respect them. But true power has never been about controlling someone else. If someone can make you angry whenever they choose, they are controlling you. If they can destroy your confidence with a single opinion, they hold influence over your life that you willingly surrendered. Think about the people who leave the deepest impression on you. They are rarely the ones who react to every insult or defend themselves against every accusation. They carry themselves with calmness. They don't rush into emotional battles because they understand that not every invitation deserves to be accepted. Their self-control speaks louder than any clever comeback ever could. It is about recognizing what you feel without allowing those feelings to become your master. You acknowledge disappointment without becoming discouraged. You experience frustration without becoming reckless. You feel anger without allowing it to guide your decisions. That is maturity, that is discipline, and that is a level of strength that very few people ever develop. Life has a way of revealing people's intentions through pressure. Some individuals will intentionally provoke you because they know that emotional reactions lead to mistakes. They understand that when people become angry, they often say things they regret, make decisions they cannot reverse. The wisest response is not always immediate action. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to participate in a game designed to make you lose your composure. There is another benefit to emotional discipline that many people overlook. When your mind is calm, your judgment becomes clearer. You begin to see situations as they truly are, instead of how your emotions temporarily make them appear. Problems that once seemed overwhelming becomes education. Your perspective changes because your emotions are no longer clouding your ability to think clearly. While others react impulsively, you observe. While others argue endlessly, you conserve your energy. While others seek revenge, you continue building your future. Every moment you refuse to be pulled into unnecessary drama is another moment invested in becoming stronger than the person you were yesterday. People may not always remember your words, but they will always remember how you carried yourself when life tried to shake you. Calmness in chaos is unforgettable because it is so rare. It communicates confidence without speaking, strength without aggression, and wisdom without arrogance. By the time you have learned to value your attention, stopped seeking validation, embraced the strength of silence, committed yourself to meaningful growth, and mastered your emotions, you begin to notice a profound transformation. You are no longer trying to become attractive in the eyes of other people. Instead, you are becoming someone whose presence naturally carries weight. And that is the ultimate goal, not to chase admiration, but to build a life so valuable that your presence is felt and your absence is noticed. They remain available at all hours because they fear being forgotten. Yet despite all their efforts, they often feel overlooked and unappreciated. Why? Because respect is not earned through endless availability. Respect is earned by becoming someone who values their own life enough to protect it. Your time is the one resource you can never recover. Money can be earned again. Opportunities can return. Even broken relationships can sometimes be rebuilt. But every hour that passes is gone forever. You stop participating in conversations that lead nowhere and relationships that constantly drain your spirit. This doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world. It means surrounding yourself with people who encourage your growth rather than distract you from it. The quality of your relationships matters far more than the quantity. A few loyal, supportive people who genuinely celebrate your progress are infinitely more valuable than hundreds of casual acquaintances who only appear when it benefits them. As your standards, others will criticize your changes because your growth reminds them of the progress they have been avoiding. Do not mistake their discomfort for evidence that you are on the wrong path. Growth often changes your circle before it changes your circumstances. The people who truly belong in your life will never ask you to become smaller just to make them comfortable. They will respect your ambition, they will understand your boundaries, they will celebrate your discipline instead of feeling threatened by it. When your days are filled with purpose, learning, meaningful work, good health, and inner peace, you naturally become less dependent on external attention. Ironically, that independence is what makes your presence so compelling. People are drawn to those who radiate certainty because certainty is uncommon. They trust those who respect themselves because self-respect inspires respect from others. At the end of the day, the greatest achievement is not making someone miss you. It is creating a life that you never need to escape from. A life where your happiness is built on purpose instead of praise. A life where your confidence comes from your character. A life where your value is defined by your principles rather than other people's opinions. When you become someone who deeply values your own life, the right people will naturally begin to value your presence as well. Thank you for listening, and remember this: the moment you stop chasing attention and start becoming the best version of yourself is the moment your life truly begins.